Hello, welcome, and thank you for joining today's webinar, Live SEO Fixes for Real Websites, Gain Authority, and AI Search Visibility, presented by Citation Labs and Search Engine Land. I'm Danny Goodwin, Editorial Director of Search Engine Land and SMX. Before we get started, I just have a couple of viewing tips for you. If you have any audio issues, you can click the audio icon on your screen. If you have any viewing issues, you can use the Q&A section to communicate with us, and you can send questions and comments directly to the speakers about the presentation at any time. Now it's time to introduce our speakers. Joining us today from Citation Labs are CEO Garrett French, Managing Director, Product and Growth James Wirth, and Senior Strategist Elliott. Welcome, Garrett, James, and Lee. Thanks so much for joining us. I'll turn things over to you.
Thanks, Danny.
Thanks for having us.
Really
Danny.
excited to be here. This is going to be great. We are, in terms of just setting the governing ethos for the conversation here, today's presentation, it's going to be a live discussion. And speaking of live, we have a few different examples of domains where in our previous webinar, we went deep into the foundation, how the tools that we use, how we approach an engagement in terms of the framework that we implement. And today we're going to apply that framework and use those tools in order to walk the audience through a couple of examples. So we have selected from the audience registrants a couple of domains that we're going to use in that process. I want to reintroduce here Garrett French. We're going to kick things off with the live discussion just to set the foundation for this and revisit a couple of the topics or the concepts that are unique to Citation Labs and our approach. So Garrett, really excited to have this conversation with you today.
James, me too. I couldn't be more excited. I just want to shout out, Danny said I could. We're going to be at Brighton later this month, and we'll be going deeper into this and would love to talk more about this topic if y'all happen to be out there. We're going to be out in sunny San Diego. Can't wait. Looking forward to it. But that's enough of that. We are SMX to the core. Okay, we're Team SMX. I'm just saying. All right, go ahead.
That's right. Okay, so let's talk about the format for today. We're going to do a quick foundational review just to set the stage, and then we're going to jump into the introducing the domains that we've selected. We're going to talk about the platforms and the frameworks that we use, that we're going to be using to walk everyone through how we would approach an engagement for each of these domains. And so let's just jump right into that. Sound good?
I love it. I can't wait. I'm ready.
Do you want to introduce the first domain that we've selected, Garrett? We'll just talk just a couple of minutes and then we'll jump into how we're going to approach it.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're picking on folks from the audience today. We love you. If you're one of the organizations we selected this with love in our hearts, I promise. And everything we're going to say is said with love. We do have some great advice and guidance for some of the, and if you got picked on today, and you want to, it was James Wirth is the one that made the selection. Okay, not me. No, we're looking at we're looking at a company called Pro-Farma, and so they do well, among other things, clinical research for pharmaceutical startups or new drugs coming to market, and that's about all I can tell you. I really did my best to understand them, but it's definitely crunchy. It's a crunchy little space.
Complex offering.
Very complex offering. And then on the kind of the opposite end of the spectrum, but equally crunchy and like complex in its own way, we've got Ace Hardware today. Can't wait to pick on these guys. I love that brand. I remember going to that store when I was a kid. So anyhow, those are the folks we're specifically speaking to today. But we hope it's useful to everybody.
And these are very, very disparate examples, very, very dissimilar from each other. So hopefully there'll be a little bit of something for everyone. Yeah, just like you mentioned. We've got a bunch of, we've got a framework that we're going to use, several tools that we're going to use, a bunch of tools that we're going to use to do these deep dives. So I'd like to introduce those at a very high level at this stage, and reminder about the previous webinar where we went pretty deep into each of these tools as well. So if you'd like more of a foundation on the tools that we're using as we discuss them, that's available as well, and it'll be linked in the resources section. But let's talk a little bit about the framework first, Garrett. Can you introduce this concept of friction-inducing latent unasked questions, just to frame that up for the audience?
Absolutely. So it's Citation Labs. We've been around, I think we're in our 14th or 15th year now. It's like, when your kids get old, you forget how, but we've been doing this a while. And in the last 5 or so years, people increasingly, maybe 5 to 8, wanted links to their sales pages, because that's where the rankings that matter, that's where they happen. And so the problem that we were asked to solve was, how do you make a sales page citation worthy? Okay. And really the answer to that is you figure out how to make it actually useful to people. No offense to anybody on this call today, but Google rewards traffic, keyword traffic. They reward topical authority, and a lot of times that is at odds with being useful. Not all the time. I'm not trying to pick any fights here today, but absolutely, to really make a sales page citation worthy, and I mean from a publishing perspective and an LLM perspective, you have to have a page that's genuinely useful to the people on that page. So we think in terms of especially like for an organization like Pro-Farma, we're thinking about purchase decision champions, the people who might be the ones that are kind of beginning or initiating the search for a partner or for a solution, and then the stakeholders as well within their purchase decision committee. Now, this is a very different kind of purchase decision committee when we lean into something like Ace Hardware. And then in this case, we're thinking about the committee of local community, right? So who in the local community is talking about Ace, who's grateful that they exist, who's interacting with them in the public spaces, so very different, but kind of the same. But what came out of our work of building links to sales pages is this concept of friction-inducing latent unasked questions. These are questions that people don't expect to have answered. These are questions that people don't know to ask sometimes. It's a whole array of types of questions that are friction-inducing, that we are, your customers don't really know to ask. They don't show up on keyword reports, okay? They're just not going to be there. There is a notion where there is intersection between things like intent, right? There is some overlap with things like query fanouts, or synthetic queries, where some of this stuff gets hit upon. But the bottom line is that the majority of LLMs and really the knowledge graph that's been built up doesn't really have a lot of evidence in it that would enable an LLM to actually understand very particular roles in the purchase committee. So it's a complicated place. Unasked questions, unknown unknowns. I love this space. Like, to me, it's absolutely fascinating. It's just been so fun to kind of turn SEO essentially on its head and say, what in the context, what in the user context do we need to put on this page, right? And so, of course, in complex spaces, we're trying to get into the decisioning committee, who's making the choices, and make sure we have information representing all, or that can serve all the needs of these different roles that take part in a decision. Synthetic foresight. We're trying to create foresight that will be appreciated and recognized as valuable before it's needed, right? If one hand clapping, I don't know how to put it. It's a Zen sort of thing for sure, but you know it when you hear it, is really how I would uneloquently put it.
And you can hear in Garrett's enthusiasm for this. This has been literally decades in the making in terms of fleshing out this concept and building it into a custom GPT that we'll introduce and offer, and informing a number of tools that we'll also be using throughout this process. So maybe we can switch gears a little bit here and talk about some of those tools, Garrett, starting with, just by way of introduction here. We've got about 5 minutes left in the intro, so maybe talk for just 30 seconds or a minute about Xofu and what the benefit of that tool is.
Sure. Xofu is a tool we've built for monitoring prompts that we input, that we choose. So we've been dissatisfied with what the market has offered in terms of kind of brand top-down kinds of visibility into, or top-down rankings or reporting and metrics around LLMs and AI visibility. So we've said, okay, well, for a given offering or for a particular page or for a single item that's for sale, how does it appear? How does the brand appear for prompts that are role specific again, right? That would enable that are bottom of funnel, right? So that's Xofu. So it's primarily a prompt tracking tool.
And one really nice element to it as well is that we want to make sure we mention is you can set up your own custom prompts that you want to track here. Also, they'll be suggested to you. You can certainly have the tool do the work, but you can also go in and override that and track it.
It does have ICP kind of baked into it. So it's kind of guessing what an ICP might be and then suggesting prompts based on those. But you can also, completely upload your own to it. So that I love it. We made it for us, and
we'll be showing Xofu as part of this process as we unpack these brands. Another tool that we'll be relying on is Link Launch. That's a link app analysis, ROI forecasting tool. It's something that we use internally very heavily for our sales presentations or any sort of client campaign pivots. That's the first place we go to, is to quantitatively compare the backlink profile of the subject page and domain to that of the top competitors in terms of ranking and visibility. And so we'll be showing examples of that. One thing also that I wanted to mention, and I teased it out a minute ago, is we've got a custom GPT that Garrett has built and continues to evolve over time that is critical to this process of unpacking and running these synthetic queries to understand essentially where the AI visibility is missing and what we can do about that. Do you want to talk about the Parse Custom GPT?
Yeah, I call it open source, but it's a custom GPT that has where all the research I can make available if anybody wants it. It's a lot that's kind of baked into how it's ultimately trying to measure the utility of content, whether something is net new and useful to person A who's trying to solve problem B. And it feeds back into our kind of core belief now, is that we, the brands, or we, the marketers on behalf of our brands, need to hold each page accountable for being useful, and not whether or not it ranks is able to rank in Google's metrics of quality content, but rather, are we serving our audience and actually solving problems? So we call it Parse, practitioner aligned return on staked effort, just meaning, was it worth reading? Was it worth my time reading this thing? Or worth my time downloading, or worth my time trying to cognitively unpack the content on the page? That's our kind of how we're trying to stand up a metric for utility. But it's
a very deep rabbit hole to go down. It's in the resources section. So if you'd like to run your own site through it and get these deep insights, it's available there as well. And then one more thing to tease out is Garrett is working on a guide. Right now it's a working title, but we're calling it the FLUQs Buster Starter Kit to help someone through this very complex process that has just incredible outputs if we get the right inputs in there. It's one of those garbage in, garbage out things. So we gotta set it up right, but then we can really get some fabulous things coming out. So stay tuned for that starter kit. I'm sure we'll put it on LinkedIn, and we'll do outreach to everybody from the webinar here to offer that as a free resource along with the custom GPT. And then one more thing I wanted to intro here, Lee, if I could tag you in just for a minute, and just a reminder, you might be on mute there. Can you just give us a quick elevator pitch on ZipSprout, because that's something that we're going to be tying into this process as well as part of the solution for each of these domains that we've analyzed.
Totally. Yeah, ZipSprout is our local link building offering. Essentially what we do is we partner our clients with local nonprofits that exist in the United States and Canada. We have a database of over 150,000. We've built over 23,000 of these partnerships since 2016. It's only ramping up for us right now. We have a lot of interest from everyone from home services brands and agencies to enterprise brands that are coming to us. So there's a lot of interest in this local link building. But yeah, we believe that these links punch above their weight and also have all sorts of downstream impact, which we can talk about in just a second here.
Okay, great. Thank you, Lee. I appreciate that. And with that, let's jump in. Garrett, do you want to start with the link gap analysis for Pro-Farma Group? Is that where we're going to start with our assessment here?
Yes, sir. Link gap, and then look at the LLM gap as well.
Okay, great. So just a quick drill down into what we found in terms of our quantitative analysis, comparative analysis between Pro-Farma Group and specifically the page that we identified for a number of reasons. It's in the top nav. It fits that category of being a sales page. What we look for, that sales landing page or that money page where conversions are typically happening. So we identified it for that reason, and then dug into essentially the numbers behind it. And so what we found was, and we again in the previous webinar, we went much deeper into this process. So I'm just going to kind of skim the surface here on some of the things that we identified, because it helps inform the discussion and gives us some direction to go on, how competitive are they currently? What would we need to look at purely from a backlink profile perspective, qualitatively and quantitatively. So starting with quantitative first, we've got a pretty substantial link gap here. This is the number of unique referring domains and the competition on average, the top 10 competitors for each of the keywords that we've identified for this particular page. They have got quite a head start here. It's color coded, and this is, by the way, I'll mention this at the end as well. You can go to linklaunch.com and either run without a login. You can just run a sneak peek preview of what you'd like to see for a particular page, or you can scroll down the page and sign up for the free beta and get a bunch of credits and run more of this style of analysis here. But the first thing we're looking at is what's the differential between the number of unique referring domains this page has and on average the top 10 competitors for the keywords chosen. And we're selective about the keywords as well, so you can drill down into this and look at the topic level here, so I can look for specific keywords and see how we stack up from that perspective as well. And this is our starting point, just essentially how tough is the competition. We've got a number of data points that pull that in terms of opportunity, level of competition, how healthy are the links, how old are they? Are we looking at link decay? Do we need to refresh? Are there not a lot of new links coming on board versus more of stale competitor set where we don't have to worry about that as much? And this all goes into driving recommendations around how many links we would want and at what quality levels for a particular engagement kind of thing. So this is the starting point here. And I would just report this, in our case, internally for something like this. If Pro-Farma Group came to us and we were working on a proposal or working on a pivot, I would say to Garrett, we've got some heavy competition here. This page that we selected before we knew what the gaps are is, pretty much the highest number, the largest gap essentially of all of these pages, all of these many pages that we found. So yeah, we've got some competition here to deal with, Garrett. This is a little bit tough on the link building perspective. They're certainly not going to be happy with a 47 and a half average rank for these. That's probably not going to drive much visibility. So we've got to address the gaps, but what else do we need to address with this page? And here's the page, by the way, right here.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. James, if you'd just scroll down it here. So, guys, when we're beginning to understand roles, stakeholder roles, especially for organizations like this. One of the first places we start is like looking at the page, and I didn't get any, and forgive me, Pro-Farma, if you're listening, I didn't get any sense from the page about who it was talking to from a role perspective. I get a lot of sense of ICP and what might they be. There's obviously different types of therapies that they're focused on. Now, I'll reiterate, I'm not a pharma native, don't know the space. Okay, not deeply. I can dig into any space, but I don't know it. So just as a caveat, maybe there are signals on here about role that they're speaking to. But what we did was, because we hadn't figured out a page yet, and this is kind of earlier on in the sequence, is we went to the home page and we said, all right, and then we worked with the parse GPT and said, okay, what are the roles that ICPs, and then very particularly the roles from these ICPs that we're selling into? Okay, and so again, the homepage just doesn't necessarily offer a lot of that. But James, can I share my screen, or could you open the document that's expanded practitioner role map? There we go. So we also rolled in another wrinkle here. So we started with the homepage. We said, all right, well, who are the types of roles that we're likely to see? And then we went on to Reddit, and I love that site. I love to hate it. I love to be hated on it. But no, it's an absolutely delightful site, and you can really capture a lot of real world friction. Okay, real world complaints, real world disgruntlednesses, frictions. But this wasn't, at the level where we really were hoping to see it, right? Like, you're not going to have pharma CMOs complaining to other pharma CMOs on there, or, the C-suite isn't going to be grumpy on Reddit, probably, right? So who did we see? Well, it's a lot of the actual researchers. But that still gave us a window into, and a grounding, right, into the context that frictions are happening. Now, we thrive when we're able to look at customer service logs in particular, right? There's a lot of friction that's happening there that can help pinpoint what types of frictions are occurring. And then, we're starting to think into interventions, or how do we intervene with this? How do we reduce this friction, right? But yeah, we dug into Reddit for more grounding. And then, James, if you would scroll down through this, this is the array of roles that we found that we believed would be addressable or need to be addressed in some way on the site as a whole, but certainly the CRO page. So then we worked and said, all right, well, who is likely to be the champion? Who is going to be the person in their organization who starts looking for a new clinical research organization? Who's gonna be that role most likely, or who's gonna be the one kind of leading or beginning that kind of discovery? And so, James, if you go to the tier 1 FLUQ map.
Yep, I switched over to
oh, thank you. Oh shoot, I lost my I lost the screen. Hold on. Okay, here we go. I get lost easily. So the FLUQ map is really our way of saying, or working with the parse GPT, bringing selecting, in this case, a very particular role who we believe will be the champion, the clinical operations leadership. And then asking what would they want to see on the page that isn't there. This is, I wish it were more magical than that. We built it up. We have some incredible formulas I'll show you, but really it's what would this role need to see on the page in order to make their task at hand easier. What's their task at hand? So finding a solution, creating an outcome inside their organization. So we ask things like, well, what's missing? What kinds of questions are they going to have? So James, if you scroll down a little bit, the UFQs is one of our metrics. This is where the unanswered questions that are likely to be coming in. We look around different types of friction areas, epistemic uncertainty. Do they know what they're talking about? Because the individual is so focused in one area of study that they're not going to believe that this organization has deep insight into their area. Things like narrative drift. These are the types of frictions and friction sources that we're trying to model for the champion. Now, do we only address the champion on the page? Of course not. We're going to strive to enable the champion, though, to inform all of their stakeholders. Now, again, we're making lots of assumptions here. First of all, were we engaged with a client, we're going to have checks along the way. Are these the right roles? We're going to want to talk to the sales team. Are these the roles that this page that we're trying to that the offering on this page is sold to? Do these frictions sound right? Does this seem like the champion in your experience? But once those things are confirmed, we're able to move forward and proceed. Listen, I know this might sound crazy, but this all is from link building. It really is. Who is this? Am I sounding like a link builder here? If not, it's because we've had to, as an agency, learn sales pages and how to make them actually useful, right? Not just as a ranking, as content that ranks, but it's content that enables your stakeholders to sell to each other, right? Okay, I'm going too far into it. So James, I think next we should, we've established the different types of roles that are there. We've established the role we selected. If you would share now the GPT yes. This is one of the types of, we call them artifacts or types of content that we advise now on publishing to your pages. You're finding your champion, right? On your sales pages, you're finding your champion, and then you're enabling that champion to sell and get buy-in internally from all the different stakeholders that are going to be participants in the purchase decision. This should have been there all along. Okay, let's just say it. Let's just acknowledge that. We should have been doing this work all along, but we weren't rewarded by Google or whoever for doing this work. But now I'll tell you, look, as the link builder, as the guy that you're hiring to build links to your sales page, this will help you get citations. This will help you get linked to by publishers. It'll help you get cited in LLMs because it provides a level of clarity into understanding the use context of, in this case, clinical research organizations. Okay, so what are we talking about doing here? This is a champion-centric grid. So our champion was the operations manager, and it gives the operations manager insight into each one of their internal stakeholding pain points, how they could anticipate it, how they could counter it, and then actual evidence that Pro-Farma would need to create, right? And so now this might I don't know, this could be illegal. I'm like I said, I'm not a pharma native.
It would certainly have to go through all of the normal
You may not be able to say
balances.
this stuff. I don't know.
Right.
Okay, illegal is a strong word, but yeah, it would have to go through checks and balances, and brand would have to be on board. But this type of an asset on a page, and I'm talking like at the bottom of the page. You don't have to mess up your conversion rate optimization efforts or anything. Put it at the bottom.
These are for deep diggers. That are going to scroll. This is the 10% of people that make it to the bottom of the page.
They haven't found what they were looking for.
Right. And it's the AI models that are going to be able to ingest this very nicely structured content that most likely is going to be net new, unique content that they would be absorbing in to provide in prompt responses for this ideal customer that is
exactly
making those prompt requests.
That's exactly right. And then that ties us into where you're going to see impact for this. And James, if you could open us up in the Xofu tool.
Yes.
So I mentioned that it was going to be a hard call for the folks that who we're picking on today. Well, as James said, don't say they're getting beat up. Say they have a lot of room for improvement.
Yeah, right. Here we're calling it out. There's plenty of room here.
There's plenty of room for growing. Now, what we've put in here are prompts that we believe are likely to be the ones that people that are from the 7 roles that we identified initially, that they would be likely to be searching for or prompting with for the CRO page itself. So again, our ethos is, hey, why are we trying to understand the ocean of brands? Let's really understand how this one offering is performing for the roles and the target audiences that we care about. And this is our ethos with link building as well. We don't go for links to the homepage. As you might have heard me mention earlier on, we're building links to your sales pages. Okay, we're really looking at each one of these individually as its own kind of standalone project, right? So anyhow, this is Pro-Farma versus the competitors for the, I want to say there's at least 100 prompts from the different role perspectives. We did put a lot more prompts in just for the operations manager. But this would be the starting point. James, if you could scroll down this page, I think it has so we did just put this in yesterday, so you're not going to be able to see mention trends yet.
But it's time series based, so week over week we'll be able to see those shifts.
Yeah.
And so, and just for Lee and myself, our benefit on the business development and sales side, when Garrett starts saying no, we don't build links to sales pages or to home pages, things like we build links to home pages. Those are the easy ones. That's why we don't go do this huge deep dive on it.
Fair enough.
For clarity, we'll build links to sales.
They're just too easy, man. I'm just kidding. No, we love building links to sales pages. But look, the top performing topics here, that's actually where we put in roles. So we're tweaking the tool a little bit. That used to be our topics, but now we're kind of collecting roles there. And so the tool's we're actively adjusting and changing constantly. But we're really trying to lean into this place where we're tracking an individual offering and understanding what types of prompts are our ICPs and the roles within them likely to be using, and how well are we showing up, or in what manner are we showing up? Because we know that maybe the CFO or the CEO isn't prompting, but if they do, here's what they're likely to be looking for as it relates to this individual offering, and how do we appear? Because we might as well try. We might as well know that we're going to be visible in a good light, and for these specific role type prompts, especially if the work we're doing also enables us to be more visible in Google as well. And we do track here Google AIOs, ChatGPT. We're rolling out Claude later this week. A lot of different, not all of them, but we don't have Perplexity yet. But we do have a lot of the major AI mode types of LLM platforms that are in use right now.
Great. Thank you, Garrett. This is why we need the guide, the Flux Buster starter kit, to be able to better understand.
You can do this for free from home. Thank you, James. Sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
We're the Flux Buster, which I'm not comfortable with that name yet.
Working title,
Flux Busters. But we're going to be offering anybody on this presentation a free tool access to Xofu and link launch. We'll help you set stuff up. We'll get on calls with you to help set all this stuff up. But we are a services company, but we really learn best when we make tools, right? I think so. But anyhow, would love to help you guys set this stuff up, and it's all doable. It's all DIY-able, and the Flux Buster starter kit is going to walk you through doing that. Assuming this is the direction you want to take. I hope so. You're on this webinar. you probably want to test it out, try it out. But yeah, we'd love to help you get up and running. So just.
And if we have time, I'll leave these tabs open. So if there's a question about one of these screens, one of these reports or tools or documents, go ahead and add it to the Q&A, and we'll see if we can get back to it. We're going to switch gears here, Garrett. Thank you for that. We're not going to go deep like this on the parse custom GPT or the FLUQs for this next one, but we're going to switch gears and talk about our second domain that we want to cover today, which is Ace Hardware. So I'm going to invite Lee into the conversation now more directly, and Lee and I are going to break this one down. Of course, Garrett is still here, so chime in as per usual, Garrett, if we're missing something here, if we get off track. But we're going to jump back into the link app analysis and just look at a couple of different page types for Ace Hardware. And Ace Hardware, I found out as I was prepping for this webinar, is a very unique business model, with each location individually owned and operated, supported by a marketing co-op, and that which is also, of course, supported by the corporate structure. So very unique. I had a really great conversation with the local owner of my local Ace Hardware, which was really cool to discuss with him and hear just some of the aspects or elements of this really unique business. So I don't know how relevant this would be specific to an individual owner, but we are going to talk about two different page types. We're going to talk about one, the national pages that might drive, really interesting to me was that might drive an incentive program that could unlock marketing dollars directly from manufacturers by moving inventory at the local level, even though it's being promoted at the national level, by an individual page. And the one that I chose to kind of do the deep dive into was the push mowers page. Essentially, I was looking for, when I was looking at this, what would be some easy marks from this perspective. So low-hanging fruit. I found some other pages, but specifically, I wanted to choose this one. It's not a massive link app. I know that's probably kind of small here on your screen. Sorry about that. It gets a little bit wonky if I zoom in too much here. I'll try to do it a little bit though. But it's not a massive link app here. They're behind by 22 links. They already have 81 referring domains. They already have 81 going to just this push mowers page. So there's already a good head start in terms of the link building, but there's still a gap. They're not going to be happy with an average rank of 40. There's plenty of search volume here to go after. So the opportunity is quite high. The competition is quite high as well, but we don't have massive link gaps. So this might be a good one for a, potentially for a case study. We can definitely diversify the backlink profile. It looks like that's warranted here because they have quite a few links coming from the same domains, about 138 links per referring domain. So we can spread that out, diversify that. We generally go for one or a very small number of links from the same domain. So that would give them nice diversification for their backlink profile. And their links are a little bit older than the competition on average. So fresh links would also potentially help there. There are more links showing up for the competition on a regular basis than there is for this particular page. But qualitatively, this is an internal metric looking at link relevance based on anchor text and titles, but it looks like they have a higher score from that perspective. A little bit, we can diversify that more. So I chose this particular page because it seems like there's a strong opportunity, decent amount of search volume for these terms, and there is not an insurmountable gap. You look at the next one down here, a lot more search volume, but also massive gap here, in terms of talking with a new brand and saying, yeah, we'd like to build 7,000 links for you. That's a little of a tough nut to swallow there. So that was one page, national product page. What does that look like for Ace Hardware? And then also, from a local perspective, this is Kansas City, Missouri. What does this particular location look like in terms of the competition at the store details page here? Now we're talking about getting traffic in the door, foot traffic in the door, as well as more visibility for searches in that area. So these are near me, departments, or excuse me, a hardware store in my area, those sorts of searches that would drive this.
Wild. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Jason. That's wild, yeah. The difference in link gap or domain, root linking domain gap between the local page and the push mowers. I guess not many people want push mowers, right? Like they're not, because you're going to have to push them. Yeah, we're talking about the ones that are
battery powered and gas powered as well, but you're just not a riding.
I thought it was
what they call their push mower page. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. There's
Got it.
competition here depending on location as well. So what's this? This is a Hawaii. So there's a lot stronger presence with the competitor set here as well, kind of thing.
That's
But this
crazy.
is an area that we can dig into and just understand what could drive more visibility at the local level when people are doing those near me searches, including branded. They're competing. They have a lot of competition at the store or at the brand level as well, but also non-brand hardware store near me, that kind of thing. Where's the competition coming from? I took some of the keywords out just to focus the keyword targeting, a little bit more. And then one additional thing that's built into the link launch tool is also we can look specifically for context as well. We call this the linking context report, and we can punch out here to better understand, similar to Xofu, but not in as much detail. We can start to unpack what the audience looks like specifically, who are our stakeholders, what are the sort of the worst case scenarios if they make a bad decision. So it's not just the clinic sort of very complex scientific offering that Pro-Farma Group has. Understanding the audiences and the specific needs and essentially what's not being asked based on specific stakeholders. It's important at the, maybe we'll call it simpler level as well. Like, I need this bolt with, however many millimeters and length and those kinds of things.
100%, James.
You get
I'll
the wrong
call
one.
out, look, there is no such thing as a simple purchase. When you really get down to it, you think about a dog collar, like, oh, that's no, because if you're really thinking about the size of your dog, if you're thinking well about use cases, how you're going to be using it, what does your vet recommend, who's the one that walks the dog, there's just so many. Now, nothing has to be complicated. I love overcomplicating things. It's one of the deep joys of my life. But I'm just saying, I think we as marketers really love it when conversions are simple, or in our mind they're simple, and we tweak conversion rate optimization, to no end on a sales page. But when you get down to it, I think there's a lot more complexity in any given purchase decision than we're necessarily giving. Well, and certainly as a link builder to the sales pages, you have to unpack and explore what types of context is going to make sense from a linking perspective, and that's where all the thinking really comes from. How do we support context and make sure that it's actually useful to link to this particular sales page? Excuse me, I could go on forever.
And even though we're not going deep into FLUQs for the Ace Hardware example, there's exactly to Garrett's point. This and wouldn't that be great when someone goes to search for, like me? I'm much more of I use a lot. I pontificate when I'm in a prompt. I want to know all of the information. What's the eco impact of a particular mower, for example? Here's the square footage of my lawn, and it's bumpy, it's hilly kind of thing. So maybe I need bigger tires. Maybe I need bigger tires on the front, for example. All of those sorts of things I can put in instead of just going to Google and typing, push mower near me kind of thing, or that sort of thing, because I want to go take a look at it. So, and there are opportunities already on the pages as well. There's available text here that could be expanded on to tie in those friction-inducing latent unasked questions. Phew, I remember the acronym, and get that sort of content on the page. Both here and at the local level as well. These are relatively kind of thin pages for the store locator pages. How much more could we do at the local level to talk about the community, to talk about the independent owners' involvement in the community? They probably are sponsoring local organizations. Maybe it's the youth sports team or something like that. But could we do more, and could that be more relevant?
They're doing lawn mowing seminars, like they're helping kids start lawn mowing businesses or something.
Or what their inventory is, or
inventory too.
Yep. Donating mowers to the local sports team, which is probably a Little League sports team, nonprofit organization, supporting them that way. And what else could they do, Lee? I'm going to turn it over to you. I'll stop sharing my screen so we can look at the slides, and we'll talk about just some opportunities that we found at the hyper local level. Lee, I'll turn it over to you.
Sure. Yeah. So I think, per James's initial comments on Ace, I mean, Ace Hardware is one of the companies that, or a type of company that we love to do work with, right? They're already established in a local, in their communities. They're an entity in their community, right? I mean, I think I did a little bit of research before this webinar. It looks like there's probably close to 6,000 Ace Hardwares in the United States.
Wow.
So they're all over the place, right? And some of these places, they're their local hardware store. So there's not a ton of competition necessarily. If you're in a super rural town, I mean, I think the last Ace Hardware I went into was in Laramie, Wyoming. And out there, I mean, there may be a like a Lowe's or a Home Depot down in Fort Collins, where you have to drive 40 minutes down the road. But Ace Hardware is an established entity in the town of Laramie, right? Like people need it for all sorts of things. So when we're looking at building links to these pages to build visibility, it's so important to be able to not only build links to build visibility for search engines and LLMs, but like how can we get downstream benefit as well as continuing to build this community goodwill that already exists for a brand like Ace Hardware. And so, when we're looking at local links, we have a different, viewpoint. It's not just the local, we're not just crushing out these local links. We're trying to think of a larger community PR benefit as well, in addition to just the, in addition to just the links. So, as far as, ZipStrat, as I said before, we have 160,000 roughly opportunities in our database. We've built 22,000 of these sponsorships since 2016. So we really do have a ton of inventory and existing relationships with nonprofit organizations, and can really build some of these partnerships between our clients and nonprofit organizations that are not just locally relevant, but also topically relevant and exist in sort of the communities where their ideal customers exist as well, right? So when we're thinking about Ace Hardware, we're looking at housing and shelter, so brands like Habitat for Humanity, Rebuilding Together, Family Promise. These are all nonprofit organizations that are in the business of building housing for community members. So what better a nonprofit organization to partner with Ace Hardware, where they sell lumber, they sell tools, they sell all these other things, right? And you can show, okay, not only are we supplying these products to the community, but we're also giving back to the community in a way that really resonates and is so needed in this time, right? So if we go to the next slide here, James. We can also look at other ideal customers, or like ideal customer personas, where we're talking about like veterans as well, right? So, how can you support veteran housing? How can you support, additionally, just supporting these special populations of Americans that are, given so much and you want to give back to them, right? So there's another opportunity to sort of set up these activations that will benefit not only the visibility of Ace Hardware, but also their visibility in the community with these folks that are probably already big fans of their brand. If we go to the next slide. Yeah, again, I mean, we're just tying it back to housing here. So there's more disaster relief stuff. I could go on and on. But the important part here is that it's not just a link, right? We're getting a couple things. We're getting, the logo. Your logo is going to be on a nonprofit page somewhere, either on their homepage or on their sponsors page. We're going to get a link. There's sometimes we're going to get an impact statement, and there's all other little bits and bobs that we can get as far as like social media shout outs. We're looking at, blog placements, sometimes newsletter shout outs as well. Depends on the different organizations and what they offer for the sponsorship tiers. But, it really does. It's a feel good thing that we're doing here. And it's especially nice to be able to work with a brand similar to Ace Hardware. We have plenty of home services businesses, folks that are really active in their communities. And yeah. Oh, this is actually my favorite image that I generated. There's a bunch of hammers. It's like I tried to make a tool library, but yeah, I mean, just another, like tool banks here. Any place. I don't know if there's one in your community here, but like we have one, I believe in Durham, that's like a place where if you don't want to go buy tools, you can go rent some or just like borrow them from like the local library, which is such a cool thing for Ace Hardware to support as well. And I think the last one that maybe the one that we just passed over, I was caught up in talking. Yeah, exactly. Here it's just like supporting skilled trades. So again, like who better to support Ace Hardware than these tradespeople who probably come and buy all sorts of things from them all the time? So how can you turn the tables and say, okay, hey, now we're supporting you guys. We want to support the next generation of tradespeople coming up, support upskilling, support trades people, training in the trades. So again, it's just like it makes such sense for these, all sorts of, like, whether it's lawyers that are getting involved in legal aid foundations, when we're looking at, grocery stores getting involved in food banks. It's just building a community network, which is essentially what we're doing with link building anyway, right? Like it is just an extension of the work that we've all been doing for years and years and years. It seems like the logical conclusion,
And we primarily focus on enterprise level engagements where we're building, sometimes several hundred links a month or more. But can you give us an idea? And we're going to tag Danny back in here now as well. But Lee, as we just kind of wrap up here, can you give the audience an idea of what's involved with an investment through ZipSprout in the local community?
Absolutely. So just as far as like how are you talking about how we get started?
Just kind of cost wise, what's the sort of the minimum engagement? What does that look like?
Cool. Yeah. So the best thing about ZipSprout is at the moment, we don't have a minimum engagement. So if you're just trying to try it out, you're interested in what we've been talking about here, just, hit us up. We'll get on a call with you. We'll run one of these link gap analyses. As far as the cost, what we're seeing here is, again, it depends on geo, and it depends on, like the type of organization you're trying to sponsor and so on and so forth. But where we're landing typically is around $500 per link, which includes our cost of doing business and the donation that goes to the nonprofit organization to set all that up. But yeah, we try to make it as easy as possible. If you have multiple domains, if you're an agency and you're working with a bunch of different clients, we make it as simple and straightforward for you to just keep, sending us more business, and we'll keep building those links for you. It really is just like a call. We'll send you a little questionnaire. You fill that out. We get to it. We get in touch with these nonprofit organizations, get their tentative approval for the sponsorship. You approve it, and then the links are built, and we bill you for it. So there's no contract. Yeah.
So these are really cool too. They'll do shout outs on their social channels. Sometimes there are editorial opportunities, submitting an article for their blog. So it's not just, your logo linked, the client's logo linked on the thank you page. There are other benefits as well, but really primarily it's that feel good link building element of doing something good
and somebody like Ace, you'd want to get their local store owner to write a little note that would go on the blog about why they sponsored this particular organization, right? Or a little video that the store owner could do if they were so inclined and so willing to do it. But there's a lot of ways there to really connect dots in very meaningful ways and weave these your organization's location into the community. Or even if you don't, you're not in. Go James.
Go ahead. Well, yeah, I was just say it's not just for local organizations. You don't have to have a physical location in that market. How do we handle those kinds of engagements, Lee? Oh, you're muted, I think.
No, he isn't muted. He's just we just can't hear him.
Okay, I'll answer that.
That happened to me earlier.
Here.
There you go.
Oh, there we go. Yeah.
So the cool thing is, if we're not looking at a specific local community, but instead we're trying to activate with like a topical relevance, we have such a huge inventory of organizations. So for a big company that is nationwide and is looking to just get involved in these communities and sponsor and build that community goodwill, in addition to the search and AI visibility, it's so easy for us to connect and really build out these because the inventory is so broad in the States. It's really simple for us to create these topical maps and build out these sponsorships as well.
Do great work in local communities.
I want to shout out. Yeah, I just got to say this about ZipSprout. I'm so proud of this organization. This is we call it a sister company to Citation Labs, but we started it in 2016. But we've given back of our clients' money, $8.5 million now to local communities, and I can't wait to double, triple, quadruple that, because that is link building that you can genuinely feel good about, that really gives back to local communities in meaningful ways. Danny's here. I feel like
Danny.
that's a sign. Hey,
Hopefully
Danny.
we have some questions that came through.
Yeah, there are a couple coming through. First off, a great job on your presentation, guys. Let's see. So one of the questions that came in was from Jui. Garrett, thanks for the great insights. Could you please demonstrate how to practically work with parse? For example, what steps should we follow to apply it to real-world SEO content or client scenarios?
I love it. Thank you so much for that question. How long do I have, Danny?
You have a whole starter kit coming out.
Because so that's definitely going to be in the FLUQs Buster pack. But basically, you try to have the parse GPT, which we'll share with you guys,
in the
crawl
resources.
a specific page. And if it can't crawl the page, you can have to download the page to your computer and then upload it to the parse GPT. And you use that as a starting point, and you're asking what types of roles or what kinds of stakeholders are involved in a purchase decision for this particular offering. And so I will say, this is where we've been hyper focused on sales pages. You can use this for top of funnel content as well. It's viable, middle of funnel, informational type stuff. But my focus has always been, not always, but in the last decade-ish, has been sales pages. So you're going to ask it, what types of roles are there that you would predict? And then,
we might have to punt this question, Garrett, to get to any
no,
others,
I'm
because it really
there.
is a 3-hour response that's warranted.
It is. It will be, but I'll say it so fast, I promise. So here's the page. Who are the stakeholders? Who are the purchase decisioning stakeholders? What information would be valuable to these folks from their perspective, but that is missing from the page? Okay, and then you do have to use. This is just an LLM. So you're going to have to say, does this make sense? You could ask it who would be the most likely champion. It really depends on the offering itself that's for sale. What's for sale? What is the complexities? What is the sales cycle for this? How many individual vetoers could there be, vetoing parties? But it's and that there will be more about that in the FLUQs Busters. But for me, it's always been a really kind of organic back and forth with the parse GPT, which you can access. And if anybody wants the actual documents that are in that custom GPT, those are available as well.
Okay, this will probably be our last question. If literally no one is asking these questions, how do we know they're valuable to present to the consumer or prospective customer?
Ouch. Okay. So we don't know if anyone's asking these questions, right? Like the prompts that we're developing and tracking. We don't know. How do we know it's valuable, though, if along the path of prompt development, we've grounded in friction, we've grounded in complaints, or we've grounded in interviews and discussions with subject matter experts, we've grounded in surveys, whatever we can find available. In our case, we grounded in Reddit threads. You know that you're at least getting closer to the types of areas of concern that these different roles are going to have. Now, where could you measure? Well, are you having less customer churn? Are you having fewer people ask for guidance or advice because they've already kind of had the loop closed for them? Do your champions, your internal, can you see your internal champions or your purchase decision champions using these materials? Can you ask them if they're useful?
Improving?
Is your conversion rate improving? Absolutely. And then you can also track whether or not based on, and are these prompts that people are using? Well, you could also, we haven't done this, but you could overlay, like, people also ask. You could you could predict intent or intent adjacent keywords and see what demand was there or is there right now for these types of pages. You could model a demand metric for each of these prompts. We haven't done that yet. So we'll get there, but we haven't done that yet.
Great question. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks.
Okay.
It was brutal.
Let's sneak one more question in. There was a question that came in from ARR, which may be a pirate. I'm not sure. Besides citations and backlinks, how can we improve visibility in AI platforms?
Nobody knows. No, I'm just kidding. So we so sorry, nobody knows. No, it's about, well, there's a lot of things. So when we say visibility, we should definitely be asking visibility for what, and compared to what, and what do we mean by visible? Visible to whom? So okay, me being a consultant, I'll try to stop. But so we really want to be more, not honest with ourselves, but like, what do we think that someone could accomplish on our website? And are we enabling that with the content that's there? And that's going to be a really kind of a key, I think, starting point. Now, okay. And then you say that over and over again with on offsite. You got to get your digital PR aligned with your kind of the overarching brand message or brand, we call them echo blocks, but just compressions of detail that are going to be very clear to an LLM. And you want to repeat these kinds of this type of information on as many surfaces as you can get it. And we do a lot of work with, we talked about being citation worthy. Is your content citation worthy? Well, you can do comparative, like what's getting cited right now. Are we at that level? Just some of the basics of really SEO. But then you could also look for unowned by competitor. Like, are there citations in on affiliate websites where they're comparing different types of brands one to another? And you're not there? Okay, well, you need to get there as quickly as you can and try to look at what is getting cited, and then try to get on those domains, get on those pages, and then to the best of your ability, get other people to publish this type of content on their websites as well.
All right. Well,
maybe.
All right, we're going to leave it there. That's all the time we have for today. If we didn't get to your question, we'll be sure to pass it along to the team at Citation Labs. On behalf of Search Engine Land, I want to thank Garrett, James, and Lee for their engaging presentation, and everyone in our audience for attending this webinar. Hope you join us again soon. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Danny.
Thank you.
Thanks, Al.